There exists within every true empath a fire that burns in silence, a rage so profound, so carefully hidden beneath layers of compassion and understanding that even they themselves often remain unconscious of its presence. Yet this rage is not a flaw, it is the very signature of their authenticity. For only those who feel deeply can rage deeply, and only those who love unconditionally can harbor such fury when that love is betrayed by the world's indifference. I speak not of the petty anger that flares and dies, but of something far more ancient and archetypal. This is the rage of the wounded healer, the fury of the sacred feminine when her children are harmed, the wrath of the divine masculine when justice is perverted. It is the rage that Prometheus felt as he stole fire for humanity, knowing he would suffer eternally for his gift. This is the rage that Christ felt when he overturned the tables of the money changers, that Buddha felt when confronted with the suffering of sentient beings, that every prophet has felt when witnessing the desecration of the sacred. The empath carries this fire within their bones, and it whispers to them in the darkest hours of the night. It speaks of betrayal, not personal betrayal, but cosmic betrayal. The betrayal of a species that has forgotten how to feel, how to connect, how to honor the sacred within themselves and others. This rage is not neurotic, it is prophetic. It is the soul's response to witnessing the systematic destruction of what is holy. It is the unconscious crying out against the violation of the archetypal patterns that govern authentic human existence. But here lies the danger. For most empaths, in their desperate desire to remain loving and acceptable, push this rage so far into the shadows that it becomes a poison within their system. They smile when they should scream. They forgive when they should rage. They turn their fury inward, and it becomes depression, anxiety, chronic illness, the body's way of expressing what the psyche dare not acknowledge. The somatic symptoms that plague so many empaths are often the result of this compressed rage seeking expression through the only avenue left available, the flesh itself. I have seen this pattern countless times in my practice. The empath comes to me broken, depleted, speaking of their sensitivity as if it were a curse. Their nervous systems are frayed, their energy fields collapsed, their sense of self so merged with others that they no longer know where they end and the world begins. But beneath their tears, beneath their exhaustion, burns a fire so fierce it could incinerate their false self and birth them anew. Yet they are terrified of this fire, for they have been taught that anger is unspiritual, that rage is unloving, that fury is unacceptable in the awakened soul. This is perhaps the greatest lie ever told to the sensitive ones. For without the sacred rage, without the righteous fury at injustice, the empath becomes not a healer, but a doormat, not a light bearer, but a shadow absorber. Not a catalyst for transformation, but an enabler of unconsciousness. They become what I call the martyred mystic, one who confuses suffering with sanctity, who believes to be spiritual means to be endlessly tolerant of what is intolerable. The rage that lives within the empath is not personal, it is transpersonal. It belongs not to their individual story, but to the collective wound of humanity. They carry the fury of the earth herself, watching her children destroy her gifts. They hold the rage of the feminine principle, suppressed for millennia by patriarchal systems that fear the power of feeling. They embody the wrath of the divine, witnessing the desecration of temples that were once the human heart. This is why their anger feels so overwhelming, so disproportionate to the immediate circumstances that trigger it. It is because they are not just feeling their own hurt, they are feeling the accumulated hurt of the collective unconscious. This rage, when acknowledged and integrated, becomes the most powerful force for transformation available to the human psyche. It is the energy that can shatter the false persona, break through denial, and create authentic change. But when denied, repressed, or spiritualized away, it becomes a destructive force that eats the empath from within. I have seen gentle souls destroy themselves rather than admit they carried such fire.
I have watched compassionate hearts close forever rather than risk expressing their authentic fury. The path forward requires a fundamental shift in understanding. The empath must learn that their rage is not evidence of their failure as a loving being. It is evidence of their success. Only someone who has touched the depths of love can feel such profound anger when that love is rejected, betrayed, or ignored. Their rage is proportional to their capacity for love, and both are sacred. The depth of their fury is a direct measure of the height of their compassion. In dreams, this rage often appears as archetypal figures: the angel of avenging with the flaming sword, the mother bear protecting her cubs, the volcano that has been dormant too long, the goddess Kali dancing on the corpse of ego, the wrathful deity whose fierce countenance destroys illusion. These are not symbols of pathology, but symbols of power, of the divine masculine and feminine principles demanding recognition and expression. Yet most empaths wake from such dreams in terror, convinced they have touched something evil within themselves, when in truth they have encountered the very force that could liberate them. I recall a patient, a woman of extraordinary sensitivity, who came to me after years of inexplicable physical symptoms. She was a teacher, beloved by her students, admired by her colleagues for her patience and understanding. Yet she suffered from chronic fatigue, mysterious pains that migrated throughout her body, and a deep sense of spiritual emptiness that no amount of meditation or prayer could fill. Her physicians could find nothing wrong, yet she felt as though she were dying from the inside out. In our work together, through the careful exploration of her dreams and active imagination, we discovered that she had spent decades swallowing her rage at an educational system that crushed children's spirits, at parents who demanded performance over presence, at administrators who valued test scores over the soul development of young beings. Her body was holding the unexpressed fury of every child she had watched lose their light, every creative spirit she had seen broken by conformity, every sensitive soul she had witnessed retreat into hiding to escape the brutality of a system that pathologizes feeling. When she finally allowed herself to feel this rage fully, to express it without apology or spiritualization, something remarkable occurred. Her symptoms began to clear, her energy returned, and most importantly, she began to use her sensitivity not as a weapon against herself, but as a sword of truth in service of what she loved. She became fierce in her protection of the children in her care, uncompromising in her advocacy for their authentic development. She learned to channel her rage into creative action, rather than letting it destroy her from within.
This is the alchemical transformation available to every empath who dares to befriend their rage. But the process is not comfortable, for it requires them to shatter the identity they have carefully constructed, the identity of the perpetually understanding, endlessly forgiving, never angry empath. It asks them to embrace what I call the shadow, not as something to overcome, but as something to integrate. The shadow contains not only their rage, but their discrimination, their boundaries, their capacity to say no, their willingness to disappoint others in service of their authentic self. These qualities, which they have been taught to fear, are actually the very qualities they need to step into their power as agents of conscious transformation. The empath without boundaries becomes a psychic vampire's feeding ground. The empath without discrimination becomes a repository for others' projections. The empath without the capacity for righteous anger becomes complicit in the very unconsciousness they were born to challenge. For you see, the world does not need more martyred empaths bleeding their life force onto the altar of others' unconsciousness. The world needs empaths who burn with sacred fire, who speak truth that cuts through illusion, who love so fiercely that they refuse to enable what is destructive, even in those they care about most. The world needs empaths who understand that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone's self-destruction, even if they rage at you for it. This sacred rage is not the rage of the ego, driven by personal hurt or the need to be right. It is the rage of the self, the totality of the psyche responding to the violation of what is sacred. It is clean rage, purposeful rage, transformative rage. It burns away what is false and reveals what is true. It destroys what must die so that what must be born can emerge. It is the fire that burns in the heart of every authentic spiritual teacher, every genuine healer, every prophet who has dared to speak truth to power. The empath who learns to work with this fire discovers that their sensitivity becomes not a liability, but a superpower. They no longer absorb the emotions of others indiscriminately, but feel with precision, choosing what to take in and what to deflect. They no longer give their energy to everyone who asks, but become discerning guardians of their own life force. They no longer fear their intensity, but wield it as a sculptor wields a chisel, carving away illusion to reveal the truth beneath. But this transformation comes at a cost. The empath who integrates their rage often finds that they can no longer maintain relationships built on unconscious patterns. They can no longer play the role of the eternal rescuer, the endless giver, the perpetual understander. Some people will not recognize them in this new form and may even retreat. Some may even become hostile, for the empath's integration of their shadow challenges others to face their own. This is what I call the authenticity tax, the price one pays for becoming real in a world that often prefers pretense. This is perhaps the most difficult part of the journey, learning that authenticity sometimes means loneliness, that integrity sometimes means isolation, that speaking truth sometimes means standing alone. But the empath who has touched their sacred fire discovers that this aloneness is not empty, it is full of their own presence, their own truth, their own power. They discover what the mystics have always known, that the greatest solitude is populated by the presence of the self. In solitude, they begin to hear their own voice, not the voices of everyone they have been trying to heal or please or understand. In silence, they discover their own needs, not just the needs of others they have been endlessly attending to. In stillness, they find their own center, not the shifting ground of others' emotional states. They learn to distinguish between their own emotional reality and the psychic material they have absorbed from the collective field. From this centered place, their empathy becomes not a wound, but a gift. They feel with others without losing themselves. They love without depleting themselves. They serve without sacrificing themselves. And their very presence becomes a catalyst for others' awakening, not because they are trying to heal anyone, but because they are finally authentically themselves. The integrated empath radiates a quality of presence that is both fierce and tender, both strong and vulnerable, both grounded and transcendent. The rage that once threatened to consume them becomes the fuel for their transformation. Like the phoenix that burns in its own fire only to rise renewed, the empath learns to use their fury as the energy for their rebirth. They discover that they were never meant to be comfortable, never meant to fit in, never meant to make others feel at ease with their unconsciousness. They were meant to disturb the peace, the false peace of denial, repression, and spiritual bypassing. They were meant to ask the questions that no one wants to answer, feel the feelings that everyone wants to avoid, speak the truths that challenge the collective agreement to remain asleep. They are the ones who will not pretend that everything is fine when it is not, who will not smile and nod when they witness injustice, who will not remain silent when their soul is screaming for truth. This is why their rage is sacred. It is the rage of consciousness itself, frustrated by the stubborn persistence of unconsciousness. It is the fury of love confronted by indifference, of truth faced with lies, of authenticity meeting pretense. Without this rage, the empath becomes complicit in the very unconsciousness they were born to challenge. They become what the spiritual community euphemistically calls too evolved to be angry, when in truth they have simply become too numbed to feel the full impact of what they are witnessing. But with it, integrated and channeled wisely, they become what the world desperately needs, not another spiritual martyr, but a spiritual warrior, not another wounded healer, but a healed wounder, not another sensitive soul crushed by the world's harshness, but a fierce heart that refuses to let that harshness have the final word. They become what I call the sacred disruptor, one who loves the world enough to refuse to let it remain unconscious. The archetypal foundation of this rage can be found in every mythology of every culture. It is the wrath of Shiva as Nataraja, dancing the universe into dissolution and renewal. It is the fury of the Celtic goddess Merigan, presiding over the battlefield where old forms die to make way for new life. It is the righteous anger of the Hebrew prophets, calling their people back to covenant with the divine. It is the transformative fire of Kali Ma, whose terrible beauty burns away all that is false and limiting. These archetypal energies live within the psyche of every true empath, waiting to be recognized and integrated. But our culture has so pathologized anger, so spiritualized away the necessity of righteous fury, that most empaths live in terror of these powerful forces within themselves. They have been taught that to be spiritual means to be perpetually peaceful, that to be evolved means to never feel anger, that to be loving means to accept everything without discrimination.
This is a profound misunderstanding of the spiritual path. True spirituality includes the full spectrum of human experience, integrated and expressed consciously. The mystics of every tradition have known this. They speak of the wrath of God, the fierce grace that destroys ego illusions, the terrible love that burns away everything that stands between the soul and its authentic expression. This is not metaphor, it is the actual energy that drives spiritual transformation. I have worked with countless empaths who came to me believing they were broken because they occasionally felt murderous rage at the unconsciousness they witnessed daily. One young man, deeply intuitive and compassionate, confessed to me that he sometimes fantasized about screaming at people who were cruel to animals, children, or each other. He was convinced this made him a terrible person, unworthy of his spiritual aspirations. Through our work together, he came to understand that this rage was not evidence of his spiritual failure, but of his spiritual authenticity. His soul was responding appropriately to the violation of sacred principles. The problem was not that he felt this rage, but that he had no conscious, constructive way to express it. We worked together to find channels for this energy: writing, art, activism, speaking truth in situations where others remain silent. As he learned to honor rather than suppress this aspect of himself, something beautiful happened. His sensitivity deepened, but it became discriminating. His compassion grew, but it developed boundaries. His love expanded, but it gained the power to say no to what was harmful. He discovered that his rage, when integrated, made him not less loving, but more genuinely loving, able to love what was truly worthy of love and refuse to enable what was destructive. This is the paradox that few understand. The empath who learns to rage consciously becomes more loving, not less. They become able to distinguish between enabling and helping, between compassion and codependency, between unconditional love and unconditional tolerance. They learn that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone's self-destruction, even if it makes you temporarily unpopular. The dreams of integrating empaths often reflect this transformation. Where once they might have dreamed of being overwhelmed by tsunamis or swallowed by darkness, they begin to dream of themselves as warriors, as dragons, as fierce protectors wielding swords of light. These are not power fantasies, but symbols of psychological integration, the ego learning to collaborate with the archetypal energies that live in the depths of the psyche. One woman I worked with had a recurring dream of being chased by an enormous black bear. The bear was terrifying, relentless, seemingly intent on her destruction. As we explored the dream through active imagination, she entered into dialogue with the bear. To her amazement, the bear spoke. "I am not here to destroy you. I am here to teach you to protect what you love." The bear was her own suppressed rage, her capacity for fierce protection, her ability to establish and defend boundaries. As she learned to work with this energy in her waking life, setting limits with people who drained her, speaking up against injustice in her workplace, refusing to participate in gossip and negativity, the bear in her dreams transformed. It became her ally, her guide, her protector. She no longer ran from it, but walked beside it. Her entire energy shifted from victim to empowered being. This is the gift available to every empath who is willing to face their shadow, to integrate their rage, to claim their full power as conscious human beings. But it requires courage, the courage to disappoint people who are invested in keeping you small, the courage to say no when everything in your conditioning tells you to say yes, the courage to feel your anger fully without immediately trying to transform it into something more spiritual. The path of integration is not the path of perfection. It is the path of wholeness. And wholeness includes everything, not just the light, but the dark, not just the love, but the fury, not just the compassion, but the discrimination. The empath who tries to be only light becomes a shadow projector. The empath who tries to be only loving becomes an enabler of unconsciousness. The empath who tries to be only peaceful becomes complicit in violence. But the empath who learns to hold the full spectrum of their being, who can be both tender and fierce, both open and boundaried, both loving and discerning, becomes a force for genuine transformation in the world. They become what the psyche is always attempting to create, a conscious human being capable of feeling deeply without losing themselves, capable of loving truly without sacrificing themselves, capable of serving authentically without depleting themselves. The time has come for empaths to stop apologizing for their fire and start wielding it consciously, to stop hiding their rage behind spiritual concepts and start expressing it in service of what they love, to stop turning their fury inward and start directing it toward the transformation of what is false, limiting, and life-denying in themselves and the world around them. Your rage is not your enemy. It is your ally. It is not evidence of your spiritual failure. It is evidence of your spiritual authenticity. It is not something to overcome. It is something to embrace, integrate, and transform into the most powerful force for positive change available to the human psyche. It is the fire that burns in the heart of every prophet, every revolutionary, every agent of conscious transformation who has ever lived. The world needs your rage, not the unconscious rage of the victim, but the conscious rage of the initiated, not the destructive rage of the wounded child, but the creative rage of the empowered adult, not the rage that tears down, but the rage that burns away illusion to reveal truth, not the rage that destroys relationships, but the rage that destroys what is false in relationships so that authentic connection can emerge. This is your initiation, empath, to feel your fury fully, to acknowledge its sacredness, and to learn to wield it, not as a weapon against yourself or others, but as a torch that illumines the path forward. the path from unconscious sensitivity to conscious power, from martyred victim to spiritual warrior, from endless giver to wise guardian of your own sacred fire. The rage that lives within you is not asking to destroy, it is asking to create, not to harm, but to heal, not to tear down, but to transform. Listen to it, honor it, and let it burn away in you everything that is not authentic, not powerful, not alive with the force of your true nature. Let it consume your false humility, your people-pleasing tendencies, your addiction to being needed, your fear of being too much. For in the end, the empath who befriends their rage discovers that they were never here to be comfortable, acceptable, or easy to understand. They were here to be real. And reality, true reality, burns with a fire that can either destroy or illuminate, depending on how consciously it is wielded. The choice is yours, the power is yours, the rage is yours, and the transformation it offers is the greatest gift you can give not only to yourself, but to a world desperately in need of conscious beings who are not afraid of their own fire. Choose consciousness, choose integration, choose to let your sacred rage become the fuel for your transformation and the light that guides others home to their own authentic power. The world is waiting for empaths who are not afraid of their own fire. The time for hiding that fire is over. The time for wielding it wisely has begun. The time for the sacred rage to emerge from the shadows and take its rightful place as the guardian of all that is holy has finally arrived.